Hi everybody. This week we are doing the pet shop, and what I have here is the applique steps of the pet shop completed, and then the door and the window are already stitched out too. So I've already done all my tack down lines, all my placement and tack down lines, and then those couple of steps. I'm ready to begin step 15. Now, it's been my intention all along to just give you stitch numbers. Because what we're going to do today is I've skipped some decorative stitching. The original pattern has you do a row of hearts, 2 rows of hearts on the roof of the pet shop. And when I stitched out the original pet shop, I didn't like that. I liked this fabric and I wanted it to show. So I skipped that line of decorative stitching. My intention has been to just tell you, like I did last week, just start with stitch 9104 or 10,003 or whatever. But what we have found is there is a lot of variation across the different stitch files, okay? So we've had several people with Vikings and Baby Locks and different machines come in and say that their machine actually didn't work with the stitch count that I gave you. So instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you my method. And if this works for you, that's great. If you don't like it, that's fine too. It's your tree skirt. If you want to do something different or you just want to stitch out step 15 all in one color, that's completely fine with me. I just want you to be happy and have success with your embroidery projects, okay? So what I'm going to show you how to do is this. Step 15, stop number 15 on your machine is going to stitch 2 lines of hearts on your roof, then it's going to stitch the outline for the house, and then it's going to stitch an awning. I skipped this stitching completely. I stitched the outline of the house in red, and I stitched the awning in white. It's my suggestion, if you don't want to do this, if you don't want to do what I'm about to show you, that you either do this next step in white or in green. If you do the next step completely in red, I'm not sure your awning is going to show up. But if you want to do it the way I did it and switch your colors so that it'll be red around the house and white on the awning and skip the stitching on the roof, I'm going to show you how I did that. It's really not hard. You cannot walk away from your machine if you're going to use this method. Okay, you got to stick around. Okay, so my machine is all set up and ready to stitch out step 15. So I'm going to load my project back up. I also wanted to tell you that Jan is on the other side of the camera, and she has been told that if she doesn't understand how to do this, she's to ask questions so that you guys have a good instructions. Also, the mailman's already been here, and I'm not here alone today, so hopefully this will go better than the last video. Okay, so Janome owners, the way you advance your stitch count is right here. Everybody on their embroidery machine is going to have a way to advance stitch by stitch. So down here is where I would advance. I could skip to step 16, or I can skip back to step 15. But right here is how I advance or go back stitch by stitch. If I hold this button down, it's going to go faster, and it's eventually going to skip by 10 stitches at a time and then 100 stitches at a time. What you can watch your little crosshairs right there, which shows the location of your needle, the little black crosshairs. You can watch that, but you can also wait for your machine to do a large jump, because what's going to happen over here is once it finishes doing the decorative stitching on the roof, there'll be a large jump from here to the house where it starts stitching on the house. Okay? You'll hear it move. So, what we're going to do is we're going to press the forward button, and we're going to watch here and pay attention to your machine at the same time until it skips through all of those little hearts. And now it's going by tens and now by hundreds, so now it'll go faster. Okay, we've got to be getting close to the end, because if you have been paying attention to the way it was stitching, it was stitching all those little hearts one at a time. So once it gets to the end of the roof, what it's going to do is a large jump. And I'm going to go back, and you can see, we'll see it's done some satin stitching here already. I'm going to show you, now I'm going to have Jan watch the, I'm going to go back just a few more things. Okay, if you watch your machine, you'll see it jump from the roof down to the house. Okay, there was a large jump from there to there. And I know my machine well enough to recognize the noise of the jump as well. Do you recognize the noise?
Yes, I do.
Jan can hear it too. So my guess is those of you who've been doing this a while, you'll recognize the noise of your machine jumping. Now, as a safeguard, I'm going to go back to the screen over here, and I'm going to go, yep, that's okay. I'm going to go back stitch by stitch, and I'm going to make sure that I go right, we're going to listen to it jump. Okay, so that's how I know I am right at the beginning of this step, okay? Because we heard it jump. I can make it go back and forth. Go ahead, stay there. Make it go back and forth from the roof to the house. So now we know where we should be. And it's important to start on the first stitch because your machine has some built-in stitches to tie things off. So back when it was over here, it did a couple of really tiny stitches that tied off your threads back here, and then it cut the threads and it jumped. It's programmed to cut the threads here and jump to here. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna start the stitching here, and we're gonna let it, I'm gonna stop it real fast and snip my long thread that is now tangled around my foot, because why not? There we go. Pull that one out. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna let this stitch out the red, and then to switch to the white for the awning, what we're gonna do is when it's tying off, when we hear it slowing down, we'll hear it slow way down, and it'll do the tiny, tiny stitches, and then it'll jump, and we'll be on the other side of the house, and it'll jump to the awning. As it's jumping, we're gonna hit the stop button. This is my stop button. If you have a Bernina or a Baby Lock, I don't know where your button is, but that's okay. But when it's jumping, we'll hit the stop button, and then it will pause on the first stitch of the awning. I don't think it's going to go right. It doesn't go all the way around the bottom of the house. So now it's going to do the satin stitches, and when it gets down to here, then it'll cut the threads and it'll jump. And again, most of us know the sound of our machine cutting the threads. So when it's doing that, we really need to pay attention and get ready to hit our stop button. And I have used this method a lot in the next, throughout the rest of the tree skirt. So, but again, if you don't like this and you don't want to do it this way, just put one thread in, let it stitch everything out, and be happy. Okay, we're getting close. And now it slows down, cuts the thread, and jumps. So I've hit my stop button, and the Janome machines are programmed so that when you hit that stop button anytime during the jump, it should stop right there. If it doesn't, the trick is to tell yourself, I'm not going to freak out, I'll just hit my stop button again. Because if it takes a couple of stitches, they're easy to just pull or rip out, or even just stitch over. If you had somehow gone 2 or 3 stitches in, all you have to do is go back to your screen over there and go back the 2 or 3 stitches. Just, so if it had somehow gone forward 3 stitches, all you have to do is go back the jump, and then go forward 1 stitch so you know you're right in position. At that point, if you have stitching to rip out, just rip it out. Or like I said, a lot of times you can just stitch over it. So now what I'm gonna do is change my thread to white, and I'm gonna stitch the awning. After that, after I get you started on the awning, we're gonna take a break from the video, and we are going to, I'm gonna stitch forward to step 29, and then when I get to step 29, I'm gonna come back to you guys and stitch it again, because there's a jump in there too where I changed my thread color. Okay, so now you can see it's starting to do the awning, and it'll do that in white. What I'm fairly confident that even if you have a different brand, if you're using, we're using the DST files. I'm fairly sure if you have a Baby Lock or a Viking or a Bernina or any of the other machines, that it still stitches these things in the same order. So it still stitches the decorative stuff on the roof first, and then the house outline, and then the awning. And I'm going to proceed this week under that assumption. If it doesn't, I need, Debbie and Sandra, I need you guys to let me know, again, that yours went differently than mine. Because what I'm going to do is on your sheets, I'm going to list. It stitched the roof details first. I skipped that. Then it stitches the house outline. I used thread number 700, which is atomic red. And then it stitches the window awning, and I used thread number 10, which is white. I gave you a brief description over here of what I did. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and quit, and I'm going to get to step 29, and then I will rejoin you guys. See you soon. Okay guys, so here we are, we're on step 29, and I want to tell you a couple of things about this step. We're stitching out the snow, and it's going to put a snowman right here, and like I mentioned before, we don't want that snowman to be this sort of periwinkle color that we're making the rest of the snow, because that would be weird. So I want to tell you a couple things about this. First, I want to tell you that this snow almost always stitches from this side, which is the left-hand side of the block, around to the right side. So that's one thing, it's probably just good for you to know, is the general direction it stitches. But also, it's finishing up this one little snowball right here. It still has to stitch a snowbank like this along the bottom before it does the snowman, but I want to show you something on the screen that'll be very, very useful, especially for Janome owners. So right now, the crosshairs is on the X. So if you're trying to determine what it's going to stitch after the jump, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the start button in a minute. And what you'll notice is right before the machine starts to move, your crosshairs moves. So you can tell what it's going to stitch out next, and you can immediately decide if you need to stop it or not. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start, and then it's going to, I think it's going to do 3 or 4 more satin stitches, and then it's going to stop there. And watch the crosshairs right before it moves. The crosshairs will move before the machine does. It's slowing down. It's cutting the threads. See, okay, so we actually have to stop here because it's going to start stitching the snowman next. So we're going to stitch the snowman, and then we'll go back and switch back to the violet blue is the name of the color to stitch the snowbank, okay? So I'm going to change to my white thread real quick. You'll probably get my arms in the... And then we'll stitch the snowman. Okay, so now it's going to do the snowman, and we're going to do him in white. Clip my thread here. So this is a pretty thread dense little snowman, so it's going to take just a minute. And then what we'll do is we'll hit the start-stop button when it's done with the snowman, when it's jumping to your snowbank. it on the cream background. It's almost up at the head, and then it'll stitch the snowman bottom. And then what it'll do, it'll stitch the snowman, and then later on it's going to add a little scarf and a face and a hat. The snowman, so the snowman has quite a lot of detail on it. It's cute. We start the snowbank, we'll go ahead and stop the video because we're just going to finish the rest of the stitch out as normal. After the snowman, it stitches the steps, the wreath, and then all the details on the little snowman and some garland on the trees. That's cute too. Okay, so it's getting close to the end. So if we start paying attention, get my finger ready. And then, like we did before, when we're going to hear the slow down, it slows down, it'll cut the threads, and I hit stop there. Except now it moved to a spot I wasn't expecting it to be very honest. So I'm going to actually start it back up and see where it goes, because I'm a little... Oh, okay, well, good thing we paid attention, because what it's doing now is it's doing an outline stitch around your snowman. This is called a bean stitch. It's really cute. So we're going to let it do all of those. Now I'm going to watch where it moves. Okay, so here we're going to hit stop. And you saw it came all the way over here, and that's where I hit my stop button, and now it stopped. So now we're going to switch back to the violet blue. There is a chance it's going to do a small little piece of stitching over here on the snowman, but that's okay. If that's violet blue, it'll just look like the shadow of the snowman, and then it'll do the snowbank. And then we're going to stitch the rest of the block out just like it says on the chart. And if you have any, and again, remember, you can always do any of these stitches just in one whole color the whole way through. I'm sorry, any of these steps, one whole color the whole way through. If you have questions or problems, you know how to get us. But otherwise, good luck. We'll see you soon.